I'd like to welcome everyone to our event today. My name is Larry Pearson. I'm a Vice President of Impetus Technologies, and it's my pleasure to be your host and MC for today's session, which is entitled Accelerated ETL Modernization to AWS Glue. Let me tell you a little bit about my colleagues who are with me here today. First, Vitor Freitas is a Partner Solutions Architect for AWS. He is, in fact, the worldwide lead for data pipeline and query enablement. He holds a bachelor's degree in computer science and more than 10 years of experience working with databases, data warehouses, analytics, and half of that has been with AWS. And he's here as our subject matter expert on this topic of modernization to AWS Glue. So welcome today, Vitor. A pleasure to have you along. AWS has been a great partner, and we look forward to continuing to work with them, and hopefully some things that we suggest today will be of great benefit to everyone who's attending. Also with Vitor is Barry Tuthill. Barry is Vice President of Customer Success for North America. He's been an integral part of our business, working with large clients across North America, helping them build strategies for modernization, guiding those engagements, assigning his team to help work and support all of those, designed to maximize ROI by driving business value along the way, particularly in this whole area we're talking about today, which is rather a hot topic in the marketplace, and that is ETL modernization to AWS Glue. Let me take a minute and show you the agenda for today's session. The first thing we're going to do is talk about some of the challenges that enterprises are facing as they look to modernize ETL to the cloud, and within that, why they're choosing Glue. And Vitor will jump in and take you through a very interesting discussion of the reasons people are finding AWS Glue to be such an attractive modernization destination. That will be followed by Barry, who jumps in and talks about a product we have, which we call LeapLogic. LeapLogic is our disrupting automated tool for migration of legacy ETL to AWS Glue. And included in that, Barry is going to cover a few of the success stories and case studies. So I'm going to invite Barry to jump in here in a minute. Before I do that, though, I would just like to remind you again to be sure to send in your questions and answers along the way. If for any reason you have any audio or video issues, you can always reach out to us by contacting my operations team through events@impetus.com. So Barry, get us kicked off here. Barry Tuthill.
All right. Thanks, Larry. Just trying to move that slide over. Larry, thanks again for the nice introduction, and Vitor, thanks for joining us on this webinar today. And thanks everyone for taking time out of the day to learn more about ETL modernization. Before Vitor goes into the value that customers see with Glue, I first wanted to just frame out the challenges that we're setting out to address here in this webinar. You know, we see modern enterprise moving their data and analytic platforms to the cloud, but unfortunately they're locked into a lot of legacy on-premise technologies. We see net new data integration use cases easily accomplished in Glue, but how do we move the decades of investment in on-premise ETL? In many cases, we're talking about hundreds to thousands, even tens of thousands of ETL jobs. The jobs themselves really oftentimes aren't self-contained. There are often dependencies across the data warehouse and reporting landscape. We see complexity and technical debt with limited documentation, heavy customization, all too common in a lot of large enterprises. The inevitable question becomes, do I recreate everything from scratch on Glue, or can I leverage some of the business logic and code that I've built up over the past decade, but at the same time rationalize that and rationalize the complexity to this new cloud paradigm? And finally, we do all of this while recognizing that we're dealing with mission critical applications. These are driving applications that users are using day in and day out to drive their business decisions. So there's absolutely no room for failure. So with that context, I'd like to pass it over to Vitor, who's going to share more about why customers choose Glue. Vitor, take it away.
Yeah, I hope you guys can hear me well. Thanks, Larry, for the introduction. Thanks, Barry, for the quick overview. And thanks, everyone, for being here today to listen to this talk. And yeah, I'm Victor from AWS, and I would like to start this conversation by just asking some simple questions on basically simple questions as why do customers choose Glue? What is the main reason behind it? And what do they really like so much about Glue? So yeah, I see I have access now, thanks. Okay, so well, to answer these questions, we first need to understand the different options that a customer actually have when they decide to modernize their ETL ecosystem, right? So when the customer has to make that decision to modernize, most of the choices that they have actually falls into three main buckets, to be honest. First, they can obviously upgrade their existing on-premises environment. This does not really offer much scalability, and it can be prohibitively expensive. And another point is that it can actually lock their business logic into a proprietary language, right? And the second bucket is obviously they can always spin up their own Spark clusters if they want. We know they can do that, but this normally results in a high cost of ownership. And this is not only limited to the cost of the software itself, but also if you think the whole engineering effort involved in setting up those clusters and also the actual cost of installing and optimizing Spark, for example, and also making sure everything is secure with latest software patches and all that stuff, scaling up, scaling down, lots of things that you need to pay attention when you do that on your own. And in that respect, actually, we have estimated that Glue will be 5 times cheaper than setting up your own Spark cluster. And it also reduces in 4 times the cost of maintaining Spark clusters itself. And there's the third option, the third bucket we have is obviously the adoption of other cloud providers. We don't deny that they exist, but again, once you choose to go with a different cloud provider, a different cloud ETL tool, you have to make sure that the option that you're choosing will not lock in your business logic, your code. It will be cost effective and it will not charge you exorbitant licensing fees, for example. So yeah, another point to remember, as you see in this slide, I'm going to show you in the next slide, is that the Glue is actually 55% cheaper when compared to other cloud providers. That's a huge thing. That's one of the reasons customers are really looking into Glue. So yeah, apart from the costs that I'm talking today, customers also choose AWS Glue for the data integration needs due to the following differentiators you see here. Primarily because Glue is a fully managed serverless ETL service. It comes in with a serverless Spark engine, and that's actually one of the most important key value propositions of Glue, which is the fact that it can launch hundreds of nodes of Spark clusters without requiring you to go there and do any sort of sizing, resizing, or figuring out EC2 instance configurations. And the second point, the second value proposition is that Glue offers data integration for every type of user, personas. So it offers what is the latest in terms of delivering ETLs and processing near real-time data, which includes visual IDEs for altering the jobs, for preparing data sets, also notebook styles for some more expert development. So we have those notebook style interfaces, powerful AI and powerful ML transforms that you can plug to your code, orchestration mechanisms, a lot of stuff in that particular space. Again, Glue is cost effective. I told you that it can be 7 times cheaper when compared to other on-premises ETL and 55% cheaper when compared to other clouds. I'm repeating that because it's a very important key value for us. The fourth key value here is around performance. Glue, again, has an optimized Spark runtime where the jobs can start to run in few seconds, so you don't have to wait for clusters to be warmed up. So you can process petabytes of data in a matter of seconds because the cluster is already there for you. So many Spark engines, if you think about, they spend minutes just to spin up those clusters. So Glue is different because it manages a warm pool of clusters already. So the job runs almost instantaneously, and every job runs within its own environment. That's important because there's no noise neighborhood problems, there's no conflict, nobody's checking your data. That's impossible. There's a lot of security in place. So it runs in isolation. And that's basically the fourth value proposition. And just on that point, it can really handle extremely complex jobs. We have customers connecting to over 60 plus data sources, and some customers running over 100,000 jobs per day. And some of them actually processing over 1 petabyte of data in one single day, all using AWS Glue. And the last key value that I have here, and the customers really love, is the fact that with Glue, there is no lock-in of their code. So the code, it's written in an open source Spark or Scala, PySpark or Scala, that can be easily ported over to other environments should you choose to move away from Glue, or maybe you already have that code, you just want to bring them over to Glue, you can do that as well. It's all open source, right? And there's also an inherent key value proposition, which is Glue is part of the cloud, it's part of AWS Cloud. So you get all the AWS Cloud benefits like elasticity, flexibility, agility, scalability, and of course, lower operating costs, which is very important. And the next slide we have here, it talks about the evolution of Glue. So we need to dive deeper, but let's first understand what is making Glue so compelling, right? So here's the evolution line of Glue. If you recollect, when we first launched Glue, we had this very humble beginning, and back in 2017, we pictured it as a simple serverless ETL service for long-run jobs with no latency, SLA restrictions, very simple type of service. It's immature, to be honest. However, over the last few years, Glue has been reinventing and evolving in order to solve the most complex challenges, data challenges, not only in the ETL space, which we were already doing that, but also in the data preparation space and also in the data integration space. So just to give an example, in 2020, we enabled improved latency, sensitive workloads, and also micro batching data preparation workloads with Glue by offering faster and predictable jobs startup time. That was through Glue 2.0. If you're familiar, you will notice that we released to Glue 2.0, and now we already have the Glue 3.0. I'm going to talk a little bit on that later. So as you can see, over these last years, we managed to evolve Glue into a full-fledged data integration service, and that's how we want to be in the future. But to support this next evolution that we want for Glue, for AWS Glue, we have to keep innovating, and for that, we define these 4 pillars that you can see here. Connect and transform, which is the first step of a data integration, and basically it goes around on how you discover your data assets, and here you want to be able to connect to more and more data sets, data sources as possible, regardless of where this data resides. So you want to be able to access it, and for that we have built several native connectors, built-in connectors that we also have as part of Glue. There's also an ecosystem of partners providing domain-specific connectors, and you can also build your own connector if you know how to do that using the SDK. So there's a lot of options here. And still in this pillar, once you access your data sources, we want to give you a set of transformation for the data preparation and the data management that you need. And again, for this, we provide a rich set of pre-built and also custom transforms for you to do that, okay? And then there's the second pillar, which is centralized and unified data governance. Because once you discover all of this data, connect to all this data, move this data into your data lakes or data warehouses or databases, you need to be able to catalog all of this data and make it available across your entire organization. You don't want to keep that data in a single silo and have to keep multiplying this data, replicating this data over and over. Just want a centralized catalog, right? And for this, we provide the Glue data catalog and also schema registry, which is specifically designed for streaming data. And after data cataloging or after cataloging the data, you also want to secure and share the data with the right users. You just don't want to give access to anyone. So you want to have some sort of fine-grained access control on top of the data, and you can achieve that with AWS Lake Formation integration, which is very well integrated with Glue. And the next one is user productivity and data ops or data operations, because if you think about it, these days the decision-making power is each day getting closer to the individual users. In the past, there was this top guy in the organization making all of those decisions, the top IT guy. Today, the individual user, the analyst, the scientist, they can make their own decisions. So we want to cater for that, you know. But we also know that each of these users, they differ vastly in their own technical capabilities. And for this, we have to provide persona-specific user journeys and also persona-specific tools for each type of those business users that we have. So we also want to provide additional productivity and data ops tooling. So for altering, running jobs and implementing business workflows, all of that, we need to be able to give that to those personas. And the last pillar here is serverless data execution engine. I already talked a little bit on that. And that's where we provide a fast, open, and high scalable serverless execution engine, as well as execution monitoring capabilities, so you can check your jobs and how they are doing. That basically caters to a variety of workloads, such as, again, batching, streaming, and micro-batching, all within Glue, right? Yeah, and I think that's my last slide. So here you can kind of see the whole picture of Glue, the whole AWS Glue ecosystem, as we like to call. From the far left, starting with the Glue connectors and the Glue crawlers, from where you can connect to a variety of data sources, being relational data, on-premise data, streaming data, whatever, and automatically extracts metadata to create external tables into the centralized Glue data catalog. As I said, it's a centralized catalog, so it works as a central repository to catalog metadata, and it also integrates itself with various other AWS analytics services like Redshift, Athena, EMR. So yeah, again, centralized catalog, very important feature here. There's also the Glue schema registry. Like I said, it enforces the schema and schema evolution, especially for streaming data, streaming and data pipelines that when you have an input stream getting into your data lakes. So this basically enforces, this basically helps to prevent downstream failures that might be caused by some changes in your schema. So you can have this schema registry to control that. Then using the Glue data catalog and the Glue ETL jobs that you see here in the transform portion, and you can basically, the customers can discover, cleans, do transformations, do aggregations on that data, and they can bring all of their data from various different data stores together, including the on-premise data, as I said. And while doing all of that, what happens in the background is that Glue is actually generating the ETL scripts that you're building. In the Glue itself, it generates these scripts automatically for you. And this basically allows non-developer people to start building ETLs themselves without too much effort, because Glue does the hard work for them, which is building the actual code. So expanding further on the transform topic here, I just want to highlight the three different types, the three different ways developers have to develop their own jobs. So the ETL developers or the data engineers, they can use visual tools to build their jobs like Glue Studio or Glue Data Brew. Those are all graphical tools, drag and drop, easy to use. But if a data engineer or a data scientist prefers to do it on code themselves, they can leverage notebooks, for example, interactive sections, which is sometimes can be more efficient than a visual development strategy. And if an analyst, a data analyst or a business analyst wants to do a transformation, do their own transformation and prepare some data, they can leverage Data Brew. Again, graphical tool, easy to use, intuitive, looks like an Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of built-in transformations you can just start to use, just click and drag and start using right away. Very simple to use, no code visual experience to transform your data. And just to finalize, moving into the data lake feature you see on the far right, we have also launched a new feature, which is called AWS Glue Elastic Views. which allows you to build materialized views in order to combine and replicate data across multiple data stores without, again, writing complex code, any kind of custom code. Again, so as I said, all of these features and capabilities is what really makes us comfortable to now picture Glue as a serverless data integration service that can actually connect, prepare, move data to and from a variety of sources and do all of these sort of things that I mentioned. Well, yeah, I said this was my last slide, so thanks. I hope you can see the value of the Glue brings to the table here. I hope you can get a good general idea of the service. If there's any further question on Glue, please feel free to ask. Thank you very much. Over to you again, Barry.
Thanks, Victoria. We can definitely see why so many customers are interested in moving to Glue these days. So I appreciate that overview. So now back to the question that I posed earlier in the beginning of the session. So how do we take all of this on-premise legacy ETL and move this to the power of Glue, right? Impetus helps our customers do this through LeapLogic. This is the industry's most powerful, most advanced solution for automated ETL migration. Just to give you a sense of some of the customers that Impetus works with, we work with a lot of large global enterprises. They have very complex cloud modernization challenges. Impetus has been instrumental in working with many of our partners moving to AWS. Some of those include United Airlines, Marsh, Bank United. We'll go through a couple of other case studies a little bit later in the slide deck. But LeapLogic really takes a holistic approach to modernization. It goes well beyond the transformation of simple SQL code. It covers everything from workflow to sessions, mappings, stored procedures, user-defined functions. The code transformation itself goes way beyond lift and shift as well. Our solution is a pattern-based intelligent transformation engine. It actually mimics what an intelligent engineer would do in a re-engineering process, how they would optimize and develop code in that process. So we have pre-built optimizations and tuning that already exist inherently in this automation. So here's a visual view of LeapLogic, but it also gives you a view into our methodology from a delivery perspective. So as you can see, we support any of the legacy ETL solutions on the left-hand side, and we help automate the process of migrating those to Glue. And we go through this four-step process, which starts with assessment, as you see in the middle here. In the ETL assessment stage, we bring together ETL scripts to do a complexity and a dependency analysis. So this information helps us preempt code and process optimizations, as well as gives us insight into automation potential and re-engineering requirements. The information that we get here is really the baseline of scoping to create a time and cost estimate, as well as a migration plan. Now, if customers have broader migration requirements, they might have other scheduler and orchestration scripts. They might have a data warehouse as well, where query logs need to be analyzed. We can also bring that information to our automated assessment as well to really give our clients a complete end-to-end lineage of their environment and of the transformation requirements. The next step in the second step, as you see, is transformation. Here's where we're leveraging our engine for code and business logic transformation. Typically, we get anywhere between 80 to 90% or even higher in many cases of automation. And this greatly accelerates the migration project versus having to re-engineer everything manually. In the third step, you see validation, which is also automated, and we're automating essentially the functional, we're doing an automation of the functional testing of our transformed code to ensure that the result sets are matching between the source and target. We're also doing in the cases where we're doing data migration, we're doing data validation as well to make sure the source and target data matches. And finally, the fourth step is operationalization, which completes the end-to-end migration project. These are activities like SIT, UAT, knowledge sharing, and essentially a handoff to our customer where the end result is a DevOps-ready AWS Glue environment. At this time, our clients have the ability to essentially decommission their existing legacy ETL platform because they're DevOps ready. The benefits have been seen by many customers. End-to-end migration delivery guaranteed. They see time, effort, and cost reductions by at least 50% due to the level of automation that we're getting. And more importantly, they're getting faster adoption of these next generation scalable serverless capabilities that AWS brings to the table. Customer after customer have seen increased performance in their environment, and last but certainly not least, mitigated risk. A couple case studies here. At Palmorix, for example, we helped them migrate their SSIS and SQL Server environment over to AWS and Glue, bringing together many different data sources as listed on the slide. Here they saw a 100% reduction in data processing costs, as well as a 50% reduction in execution time. Another customer here where we helped Bank United migrate their Oracle and Informatica environment to Glue, as well as a number of other AWS services. A couple value highlights to call out here: 54% faster data ingestion, and a project that was originally projected to last over a year was reduced to 5 months. As far as next steps here, and where to take it from this this webinar, a good next step oftentimes is to essentially just reach out to whether your questions are related to Glue or related to migration. You can reach out to the team here. We're happy to sit down, bring Vitor, bring some SMEs from the Impetus side and talk through your migration use case. Next logical step from there is maybe do some sort of assessment of your environment and kind of put together what a migration blueprint would look like, and of course any sort of time and cost estimates that you might need as far as planning purposes. Just the last slide here from me is just to give you a quick snapshot of Impetus. We are a leader in cloud and data engineering. We have about 23, close to 2,400 engineers now specialized in data and cloud. A big part of this business is our partnership with AWS. So we're growing with AWS. We're adding to our AWS team almost daily. We have a number of existing certifications. We're an advanced consulting partner. We're a MAP partner. We have a number of competencies in place already, as well as a number that are in progress, and specialize in a number of other areas. Migration was the core focus of the conversation today, but we've helped in other areas as well in our professional services. So just wanted to end with a quick overview of Impetus. With that, I again want to thank you all for your time, spending time with us on this webinar here, and I'll pass it off to Larry to close it out.
Great. And Barry and Vitor, thank you for your time today. What we've done is taken a look at the marketplace and what we're seeing in terms of the kinds of challenges people are bringing us, asking for help in how to modernize their legacy ETL environment and take that over to AWS Glue. After looking at some of those challenges, Vitor came on and took us through a very thorough discussion of the AWS Glue capabilities, the value proposition associated with that, And then Barry wrapped up by talking about how we, as an advanced consulting partner to AWS, partner with them to reduce the time, cost, and effort of this type of a migration by as much as 50%. So through our automation capabilities, which we call LeapLogic. So thank you again for all of your attention. I hope that you have sent in some questions. And that's what we'll do now is shift over to take a look at those questions. And there is still time for you to do that if you've not had the chance to do that at this point. So turning to that, what I'd like to do is can see we've had a number of different questions that have come in, and it looks like the first is directed toward you, Vitor, and it has to do with let me just, oops, there we go. It has to do with, is there any extra cost for Glue by taking advantage of the cataloging, schema registry, Glue Studio, Elastic View, etc.? Is any extra cost associated with that?
Yeah. Okay, I hope can you hear me right? Okay, so let me take all the questions that I see here from me. There's a couple of them. So yeah, in terms of costs, we have the Glue pricing page in our documentation, which is very clear, different from many competitors. We are very upfront with our costs and how much it costs to use Glue. But basically, we have a couple of different prices in Glue. We have the price for running the job, which is a specific, it's based on the number of DPUs that you choose to run for a particular job. That's how we're gonna charge you on Glue. And the machine that you want to run, like there's a different G1X and standard and G2X. Based on those, each one of them has its specific costs, more powerful, more cost basically. And then you choose the number of DPUs, which are data processing units to run your job. The more DPUs, the more you're gonna pay. I don't have the value. I think it's 44 cents per DPU per hour. But now we've just launched the Glue auto scaling, which can really help reducing costs, because what you do, you define the maximum number of DPUs for your job to run. But the job starts to run and it doesn't take all of these DPUs immediately. It leverages what the job is actually doing. And if it needs more DPUs, it gets from the pool that you reserved. And if it needs less, let's say when it's writing, maybe just need one or two writers, one or two executors to do that job, you just start releasing the DPUs and then the cost still goes down. And in terms of cataloging, I think it's very cheap. I think I had the data around. So for cataloging, the first million data requests, million tables that you create there is free. There's also the first million requests are free. Then you start paying after that. And I think it's $1 per another million for each million that goes over the free quota. What else? Yeah, the same. I think the same for requests over 1 million. You start paying $1 for another million requests. And then there's also the cost for crawlers as well, which is I think a crawler uses 2 DPUs by default. So you're gonna be paying at least the cost of 2 DPUs for running a crawler. And then what else there's here? Yeah, for running Studio, basically no, there's no cost associated as far as I remember. But when you deploy that job, whatever you build there into a job, then you're gonna pay as a regular Glue job pricing. And if you're using Data for example, you're gonna pay for session. So how long you're using that session. There's a price there as well. I don't remember all the numbers, but you can check in the documentation. It's really clear, the pricing. It's really clear for Glue. Do you want me to take any other question, Larry?
No, I think that covers it quite well. Thank you, Vitor. Barry, we've got several questions here which seem to be driven from your discussion of the assessment stage of your automation LeapLogic platform. And I'm seeing some here that talks about how we help define that roadmap, dependency analysis, a number of different questions. You might just scan down those and see if you can combine the answer to several of these at once.
Sure. So I think one of the questions was around, related to when automation doesn't happen within LeapLogic, how do you handle that, right? So there's a couple of ways, right? You know, we will never guarantee 100% automated conversion. I think any engine, you know, saying that would be leading you the wrong direction. So of course, there's going to be some level of manual intervention. The idea with LeapLogic is to minimize as much of that as possible. So a couple things that we do as part of the assessment stage, what we do is identify if there are unique patterns that have economies of scale within your code. And if those things exist, we'll actually add those to the engine for automation, right? You know, to make sure we're covering some of those things. If they don't have economies of scale and there are maybe one-off customizations or unique things to your code, right? Those would happen more manually. But even with the tool itself, and many times the tool can analyze that code and make suggestions to the developer. So you're never, as you're re-engineering, you're never stuck with nothing. You know, the tool actually provides suggestions to the developer to how to re-engineer the code or how to reset it up in the Glue environment. So we have multiple ways to cover that specific scenario. Another question was around the dependency analysis, and that kind of ties to our assessment. And dependency analysis is very beneficial for our customers, oftentimes because, as I'd mentioned before, the documentation around how applications are running and dependent against each other does not oftentimes exist in the environment today. So we give our customers visibility into something that they haven't seen before, but that helps us with how we approach the migration plan and blueprint a plan from a sequencing perspective, right? So we never want to take a big bang approach. We also always want to take a phased approach to migration. So we use the dependency analysis to sequence things in a certain way, but it also gives us visibility into obviously how jobs are being executed and run in the environment, so we can use that information to preempt optimizations as we do the migration. So that dependency analysis is a key critical area for us. A third question that I see is related to third-party systems integrators. And yeah, we've got a great relationships with systems integrators that we can partner with to make these migration projects successful. We have a bunch of different models for how we work with systems integrators. Everything from Impetus really helping do a lot of the heavy lifting from an end-to-end perspective to, more just leveraging the tool and leveraging the code automation that we deliver. So a lot of flexibility with how we can work with SIs, and certainly reach out to us and we can dig into some more of those details based on the specific use case.
Excellent, Barry. That was terrific. It looks like we have several Informatica users who may be looking to modernize Informatica. There's a question here. It's a kind of a combination of several questions. We use Informatica. We feel it's a highly optimized for performance by tuning threads, partitioning, how we use cache and workflow dependencies. How does Glue migration take care of these architectural requirements? And you may each want to offer some perspective on that. I'll let you decide who wants to go first.
Vitor, I'll let you, maybe my answer might be more simplistic than your answer, given your
Sure.
detailed knowledge and expertise in Glue. What I can tell you from a LeapLogic perspective is the way we approach the whole migration and how our engine is set up is based on patterns, right? And what you're describing in your example here is a bunch of different architectural patterns that you've set up in Informatica, which make a lot of sense. And it's something that we've in many cases seen before. So I don't think there's anything unique or different. We have these types of patterns to cover automated conversion in any one of these scenarios, right? Oftentimes even when customers don't have a highly optimized and performant environment like you might have, we can actually make specific recommendations based on what we're seeing in our tool for things like optimization using partitioning and things of that nature. So so we do have a lot of this stuff pre-built in the tool. We can, happy to, reach out to us, happy to dig into some of the very specifics if you'd like to. With that, Vitor, I'll let you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, basically, it's hard to say exactly on best practices specifically. Glue has its own set of best practices as well. So once you migrate to Glue, you have to conform with those best practices. It might be slightly different from what you know about Informatica, but that's something you need to take care on your side. Once you're in Glue, if you see that the job's not running as intended, then there's a lot of things you can do. You can obviously increase compute power there. You can there's a bunch of job parameters that you can add to your job. It's a Spark code, so you can tune that code if you feel that it's not performing as intended. There's a bunch of metrics, executor metrics, and graphs that you can check from logs and stuff to see how the job is actually performing. So at the end of the day, the code itself is not, I cannot say that it's not important, because it is. But once LeapLogic does its work of transforming this job, and this job is actually running on Glue, at the end of the day, what really matters is how fast this job will run on Glue. And for that, we have several best practices to help improving the speed of the job. And again, I can spend like 30 minutes just talking, or actually 1 hour just talking about best practices on Glue here. So it's really due to specific, what are you feeling on a particular job and how we can improve that particular job.
Vitor and Barry, thank you both for hanging in here with some of these questions that came in, some excellent questions from our audience. Thank you all for that. There are a couple more here which we were not able to address live and on the air, and we will get those out to you in the form of a written email response. I want to thank everyone for attending today, and that concludes our experience. Have a great balance of the rest of your day. Thank you very much.